You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, the April 11th meeting of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. You can find information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org. Good evening. To call order the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission meeting for April 11th, 2022. We're a little bit late, but still moving forward. So I'd like to make a roll call this evening. Commissioner Barron. Here. Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Deitch.
Here.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Here.
And the chair is here as well. And I don't believe that the Commissioner Domkowski, who is our liaison, is not here. So we do have a quorum. Very good. So we'll move through this quickly this evening. Approval of minutes of the put my glasses on, 3/14/2022 executive session, 3:20, and we'll do these all in concurrence. 3/14/22 executive, 3/14 hybrid regular meeting, and the 3/28/22 hybrid special meeting. Are there any corrections, deletions, or additions to those minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Hearing first and a second. I need to go through a roll call. Commissioner Barrett.
Aye.
Dennis. Deutsch.
Aye.
Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. So the approval of those minutes are approved. Approval of claims April 11, 22. Mr. York. We will give Mr. York ample time. Attorney Sternick is getting uptight. Crossed his legs.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's going to be the operation one. So I apologize for that. So this is a claims docket for April 11th, 2022. For March 2022, we had payroll for CDBG reimbursables, staff and commissioners. We had, from our operating fund, we had Great American Financial for April 2022 copier fees, Saranac Law Offices for monthly retainer for March 2022. From the North TIF Fund, we had August Mac for Trail Creek Properties, Begley and Concord for 2/7/22 to 3/6/22. I might also make mention at this point in time that the Trail Creek cleanup, that the money that's paid out of that is from the insurance money that we received back. Correct, Alan?
From the money from a judgment we won, or the agreement we won based on the litigation we commenced against the primary polluter.
Yes, so we had a kind of question about that, so I just want to get that clarified for the public. August Mac for redevelopment plan for 1/24/22 to 2/20/22. Barnes and Thornburg for legal services regarding East TIF. Barnes and Thornburg for legal services regarding Bloxham. Butler, Fairman, Seifert for Seeing Sands Phase 2 inspections. Butler Fairman Seifert for Liberty Trail Scoping Study. City of Michigan City for Redevelopment Commission approved funding for the zoo for large cat exhibit expansion. Department of Waterworks for utilities at 1215 East 2nd Street. HDR Engineering for MC Station Block TOD modifications. Neighborhood Capital for 11th Street Central RFP. Neighborhood Capital for Development Advisory Services. NIPSCO for utilities at 1215 East 2nd Street. Mr. Philip Ream for partial payment for facade grant at 1011 Franklin Street. Saranac Law Offices for legal services at East Tiff, March 2022. Saranac Law Offices for legal services in the North Tiff for 2022. Wallach Summers and Haas for legal services for You Are Beautiful site. Wallach Summers and Haas for legal services for the Transit Center. And 401 CHI LLC for facade grant reimbursement for 401 Chicago Street. From the South Tiff, we had DLZ for the South Tiff Connectivity Improvement Project. We had Haas and Associates for the South Tiff Connectivity Improvement Project. And we had Saranac Law Offices for legal services in the South Tiff for March 2022. And the correction for this revised docket was for 2018 Ohio Street bond. We had U.S. Bank for requirement for 40 operation fund for administration fee, a requisite for 40 operation fund for administration fees of the bond.
That was just an addition.
Yes, that was an addition to, and then actually there was an amendment to our Great American Financial for the copier fee came in a little later than usual, but it was for April 2022. So that was an addition as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. York on the claims?
I move for adoption of the claims.
A second.
Hearing adoption in second. I'd go through a commissioners, Commissioner Barrett,
Aye.
Dennis, Deutsch,
Aye.
Hendricks,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. The adoption is approved. All right. Next on the agenda, approval of financial report.
This is a balance sheet dated 2/28/2022. Cash in our cash account, we have operating account for $204,605.64. Southside TIF account, $8,643,447.33. Southside TIF debt reserve account. Southside TIF debt reserve account, we have $335,988.51. For Southside TIF capital account, we have $16,836.84. North End TIF account, we have $3,858,968.42. Northeast TIF account, we have $261,753.64 for a total of $13,321,600.38. Loans receivable, loan to Eastside TIF from operating account for $21,028.49. County business loan fund, we have $133,333.00 for a total assets of $13,475,961.87.
Any questions for Mr. York? Hearing none, I look for a first and amendment.
I move for approval of our balance sheet, our financial report.
I'll second that.
First and second, Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Deutsch,
Aye.
Hendricks,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. So the motion passes. Number 6 on the agenda, the request by Lebezic Center.
Yes, this is a request to use our what we call You Are Beautiful lot, or a portion of that lot, and they'll be represented by Ms. Janet Block, who's the director of the Lebezic Center. And this is something we've approved in the past, and it's basically the same setup for that approval.
Hi,
Janet.
everybody. Thank you
Good
for
evening.
letting me be here. I'm Janet Block from Executive Director of Lou Besnick Center for the Arts. And the request is to be able to park on the north half of the You Are Beautiful lot during our annual art festival, which we have a day for setup, which starts on August 19th. And then the 2 days of the festival are the 20th and 21st. There's a map enclosed for you there. And in the past, I think that we just sign, Alan, what is it I sign? The lot, we sign a note, yeah,
Basically, you're making an application. but
No
you
holds.
Start here with us and we get the agreement.
right. And
It
then,
comes with the Board of Public Works, and then this basic thing is the insurance.
right.
That will harmless the city.
And I think we already actually have our insurance, and we're just really, I'm prepared for the Board of Works, and I'm supposed to be on the coming agenda, but we needed a letter of approval from the Redevelopment Commission for that.
Yeah, the Board of Works it's kind of a two-part agreement, just for everyone's knowledge. The Board of Works wants us to approve it and then they approve it. So it's kind of a two-part agreement. Yeah, technically it's ours. I have checked with as you may recall, we have signed an agreement with the temporary agreement for development of that property. I've checked on their construction timeline and I've given them these dates, and we're still good on these dates for that portion of the property.
I move that we approve the request from the Besnick Center to use the You Are Beautiful site as parking for their art fair.
I second it.
I'd ask for any comments from the board, commission. Hearing none, I'll go to the commissioners. Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis, Commissioner Deitch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye as well.
Thank you so much.
How easy was that?
That was
Oh
really
my
easy.
gosh.
I
Janet,
didn't face the firing squad.
we'll try to get a letter.
Say-
We'll get a letter out to you soon.
Say that, oh,
We'll get
okay,
the letter
thank
out
you.
soon.
And during this festival, just so you know, it is our 40th year, and we are gonna have beer and wine. And I'd like you all to be guest bartenders for a shift, so, okay. You
Do
could
we
be
have to get-
you could be celebrities.
Do we have to get
We'll get-
liquor licenses?
Yes, we have all that, nailed down. We'll get.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I would just make a parting comment is that so what the Besnick Center has done for the city over the years has been great.
Thank you. I'm coming back for that one. I appreciate that very much. And we're continuing to do
Yeah,
it.
so it is so people that I travel Northwest Indiana all over, and they comment about the fact that it's wonderful. The things that you do there, and people don't in the public, the newspaper, we're not talking about stuff that people do in the city. What you do is great.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. And I think you'll see more because our community is really expanding of
Yeah.
the people we serve. So
Yeah.
hopefully you'll see more of that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. Have a great night. Thank you. Next on the agenda, the approval of the global engineering proposal for annual NDOT inspection of I-94 421 overpass. Skyler.
So I'm going to explain this one. I know last time we tabled it and I wanted to get an explanation for the board. So I've done some research back into when we completed this project. This was in relation to the decorative elements that are added to the 421 overpass at the interstate overpass or exit. I'm sorry, interstate exit. When we first did this, so those are all betterments that we committed to through NDOT. They were going to basically do your normal overpass. We said, we want something better than that. We want to stand out and look good. So everything you see there is a betterment that the redevelopment commission paid for. As part of that deal, we are charged with an annual inspection, and that annual inspection is we would like for it to be done by Global. They've been doing they designed the overpass, the decorative elements, and they've also been doing this inspection, so they know exactly what they're looking for. What they provide to us is an inspection checklist that goes to NDOT and it goes to the city. We, the Redevelopment Commission, are not, it's not a maintenance agreement. We're not maintaining the bridge or anything like that. This inspection goes to the Board of Works or the city, and it says, hey, lights are out. This thing needs to be replaced. This needs to be repainted. So it basically is just I would say a insurance policy to NDOT to make sure that we're taking care of the overpass and that it's perpetually staying in good shape. So that's what this is. It's and it comes out of a fund that's already established. When we did this, we set aside about $50,000 extra dollars. There's about $38,000 in there right now. That's where this inspection fee comes from. It's not a maintenance fee. It is an inspection that happens. The maintenance happens at the city level. They would be in charge of taking care of any type of fixing, I would say, light replacement, things of that nature. So that's an explanation of that and how the division is of paying for things.
Any questions for Mr. York? My only comment is that these dollars are already allocated.
Correct.
It's not something that we have to, that we're going to take out of redevelopment commission funds.
No, it was created when we did the betterments. And like I said, it was a commitment to NDOT. And I think it was probably rightfully so to make sure that it's perpetuating that everything looks good there. So,
yep. Totally agree. So, look for a
Move we approve the engineering proposal with Global for the IA-94-421 overpass.
I'll second that.
having a first and a second. Look for go through the roll call. Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
Dennis, Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Hendricks,
Aye.
Chatfield. The chair says aye. Motion passes. Mr. York will take care of that tomorrow to make sure that that gets taken care of. Number 8, facade grant request, 825 Franklin Street.
Good evening, Commissioners. Aaron Borger, Assistant Planning Director. Tonight we have the facade grant request for 825 Franklin Street. This did go to the Historic Preservation Commission for approval with a few conditions. So I've reviewed the application and it seems to be consistent with the facade grant application. The applicant supplied 2 quotes, one of $11,700, the other of $13,450, and the amount to be reimbursed by the Redevelopment Commission will either be $7,020 or $8,070. It will be up to the commission to decide which will be the reimbursement amount. And I believe Michael Connor is in the audience. Yep. If you have any questions for him directly. And in addition to that, I was also extending the approval from 6 months to a year as they have another application for the upper story residential.
So I'd ask any commissioners.
What was that last point? Ed?
So the 2 comments would be approving one of the amounts, and the second one would be extending it to a year to match the upper story residential grant. So this way that they both close out at the same time.
I think that's a good idea. That way the builders can work on it simultaneously. Is that kind of the idea? Just, I see you shaking your head. Yep.
Thanks. So I'd ask any commissioners for any comments at this point.
Did we decide on which amount we reimburse them for?
I will leave that up to the commission to decide. As Michael Connor is here, you may have questions for him if he has a preferred contractor. I did speak to Doug Parcell regarding both quotes, and they seem to be consistent with the conditions of approval for the Historic Preservation Commission.
So in our application, we don't specify lowest bid. We did that for, I wasn't here when we created that. I didn't write that document, so I don't know why we did it, but I do think we leave it up to our preferred contractors from the people working who are investing in the building to choose that. If there's someone that they think can do it better, or if there's someone that they've worked with before in the past who did quality work, I think we would need to ask the owner who you're going to go with before we make our decision, because both are on here. Does that make sense, Aaron?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have who you'd like to go with?
So
Who are you going to choose?
Yeah, if you can come.
Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the
Yeah,
spot,
if you
Mike,
come
so
up,
we can
Mike,
make a
yeah,
decision.
please, thanks.
I want to get you a decision tonight.
No, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it. So the catalyst for both the facade and the upper story grant are a tenant, right? So had the building for 7 or 8 years and sort of waiting for the perfect tenant. We've gone through a few, took care of the building, renovated to some extent on the ground floor, but this tenant landed in our lap, and that spurred the catalyst for both the facade and the second floor at the same time. Due to Mr. Farina's investment on the ground floor, it's going to be impossible for us to work on the second floor after he's built out.
Sure.
That we can't do that. So really, we were prepared to do it at some time, but unfortunately we have to do it all at once in order to accommodate him. He's already sort of inside and doing his thing and applying for his permits and working with the architects and the redevelopment commission and the building department. We probably would not go through this, the expense on our side. Aaron was very diligent in his application process with us. As a matter of fact, it came down to one document we were missing. It was a document to prove that the mortgage was in good standing. It was easier for me to pay off the mortgage than get the approval that the mortgage was in good standing. So we paid off the mortgage. It was a small mortgage, and got that to Aaron. And so the property is free and clear. And with this approval, what we'll do is, pending the choice of your contractor, or what I would suggest is that the person that could start the soonest, and I think that's Chavez personally, even though it's more money, that is really timeliness is probably the most important thing for us.
Aaron, am I correct? We're going to approve if we go with Chavez, we're going to approve. Okay. Yeah.
If you go, that will be approving the amount of $8,070.
$8,000. Okay. That the worst case scenario is that Chavez can't do it and we have to go with the other guy, and then it's a reduction on our part. So really, I guess nothing lost.
Right. Well, I move for approval of the $8,070 for the facade request for 825 Franklin.
So could we amend that to be up to $8,070?
Yeah,
It's up to $8,070.
That's fine.
And excuse me, if we can have that extended to April 10th, 2023,
Oh, well, that's your recommendation. So,
or no?
yes, April 10th, 2023.
Okay. Having a first and a second, I will go down the list of commissioners. Commissioner Barron.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Deutsch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. So that $8,000, up to $8,070 for the facade grant. Thank you, Aaron. Next is the upper story grant request, 825 Franklin Street. I'll come back to you, Aaron.
Yes, all right. So
Thank
there
you.
isn't a historic preservation approval on this as this is strictly a land use function. So the applicant is proposing 2 units, one of approximately 1,079 square feet and the second unit of approximately 895 square feet. Both units do have parking. There was a site plan that was created for it. So there's 1 parking space per unit. There was 2 quotes supplied with the proposal. One in about 139,000, the other one in about 50,000. The applicant also included some fixtures and other permanent amenities that would be a part of that this application is actually designed to pay for. And that came out to about $40,200 on the low end. So staff is recommending approval of the upper story residential request in the amount of $30,000. That will be a total of $15,000 per unit. And for the work to be completed no later than April 10, 2023. And I'll defer, if the commission has any staff for the applicant, I'll defer to Michael Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
What's the end plan for the units?
Yeah, so Aaron was, again, pretty diligent with his work here. So I thought, and he had some questions relative to sort of what we do and the plans for the property. So I don't think, did these make it inside the packet?
They should be, make sure you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it.
One of each. So Aaron had some questions as to sort of what we do. And one of those units, the one with the most pictures, is actually where I live. So I live above Royale at 827 Franklin. And you'll see sort of the quality of work that we did on that unit. The other one is above 727 Franklin, which is Mucho Mas. So the intention would be to create 2 residential units, and they would be up for lease for either a long-term period or a short-term period. Haven't decided exactly what to do there yet.
Okay, I think when we wrote this program, we were looking for permanent residents downtown. And I don't think a short-term rental, Airbnb or whatever, kind of fits into that program that we had originally discussed when we put this into play. I don't know if anybody else was around that.
I mean,
Al, what?
Before me too.
No.
yeah, I mean, when we originally wrote it, it was, let's see, man, that's been a long time ago. I wrote the thing. It's been like 8 years, 9 years now. I don't even know, Mike, how long it's been. So originally when we wrote it, we didn't have a lot of Airbnbs. It just wasn't as prolific as it is now and so readily available. But I think originally the goal of it was long-term. It was to encourage long-term development of upper story residential over historic buildings in our main downtown. Since then it's expanded to create living units, if you will, permanent living units for long-term residential. Basically to create critical mass downtown. That's essentially it.
I lived there.
It was a critical mass.
I lived there.
Yeah,
I invested there.
So that's kind of the goal. I mean, that was the original goal. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts about it, but I'll just say that because I know I wrote the thing. So
Can you give us a guarantee that the unit would be used for long-term residential instead of short-term?
Yeah, so my thought was to sort of let the market determine that. There's a building down the street from me on the very corner that does a lot of short-term rentals. And the short-term rentals do bring in a certain amount of money to the neighborhood. I mean, I see a lot of people traveling from that unit at the very end into restaurants down the street. But I'm not sure that a short-term rental would work there personally. I think it would, but would enjoy the flexibility of wanting to do that if there was if that was more financially beneficial to the owners.
I have a comment. I know there's some short-term rentals downtown, but I know we didn't incentivize them. I don't know if, in short-term rental, what is the legal? Is it 30 days?
Any stay less than 30 days.
Less than 30 days is defined by statute.
So like I said, there are some, but we didn't provide any incentives to them at all. They didn't come for incentives, is what I'm saying. There are some down there. I know of one for sure. But again, I think the intent was that this is for long term.
I think just what they're getting at is that we've done housing study. We know we're in a crisis for long-term rental, or not a crisis, but we have a shortage of housing downtown. Our goal here lately has been to provide new housing in downtown. I think what the commission is looking for is just like a permanent person downtown. Therefore, like yourself, going to the restaurants, spending time downtown, living downtown, like I said, creating critical mass. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know. That was just another comment that popped in my head. That was really kind of the things we've talked about today.
Well, let me.
Let me interject a little bit. So we have not determined, based upon the guidelines that we provided, to state that it can or cannot be short term. So my view is that if we want to change what we want, if you look at other communities up and down the lakeshore, up into Michigan, there are a lot of short terms that are Airbnb, Verbo, whatever you want to state. If this commission wants to move forward past today, we can change the terminology in our agreement and how we approach it. So, my opinion is, either way is okay from my perspective, because it still provides, we will have more housing in the next 18 months. So, and we don't, I think we manage some of that from a tax perspective. And Skylar and I talked about this today, is from a tax perspective, you're still paying 2%. So
Real estate taxes.
that's right.
That's right.
You're still paying the tax. And if you're doing VRBO or Airbnb, you're paying
Innkeeper's tax.
Yeah.
11%.
And you're paying the sale. So
Yeah.
So I think my perspective is that we have not, within our agreement with respect to what you want to do, we've not said that you can not have a short-term lease. We can change that if we so desire, but at this point, we have not done that. So that's my perspective. So.
Well, I move for approval.
The chair will give a second. So go down. Commissioners, Commissioner Barron.
Nay.
Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Deutsch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
Commissioner Chatfield. Chair is aye. The motion passes.
Thank you.
So, and we will take this issue up in executive and talk more in detail. So,
Thank you.
Mike, my only other comment would be that if it would be important to talk to Aaron you're okay, Aaron. When and if you get a lease on that property, just communicate with Aaron. It sounds like you guys have a good relationship. So I want to keep that up and
He's very detail oriented.
He's
Yeah,
persistent.
I'll give him that.
Persistent.
yeah, that's good.
And I don't know, quite frankly, if that's the route we're gonna go anyways, right? I mean, I have 4 lofts on Franklin Street, 3 above Mucho Mas and mine, and all of those are annual leases. Matt Hubbard from Tut and Blink lives in one of my units. He's been there for 3 years. So I've never done it before. If the market on rent supports the investment that we're making, which I think the bids are $130,000, $140,000. Personally, I'd rather deal with annual tenants than short term, me personally. Right. But
Totally
at some
makes
point,
sense.
maybe the front unit is an annual tenant, the back unit, somebody comes in during the summertime and it's vacant in the winter. I don't know.
Plus, I mean, also we're getting a new restaurant in downtown. I really appreciate that. I can appreciate that investment in our downtown. So thank you.
Yeah,
for bringing that into our downtown.
that's why we're here,
Absolutely.
quite frankly.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
I'm disappointed we don't have sandwiches tonight.
Thank
All right,
you.
Joe, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thank you. Next on the agenda, approval of lawn care landscape contracts.
So I've got landscaping contracts in today. I've had time to go through some of them. Carly is here tonight representing PRs. I've went through and added up the majority, kind of looked, I did have time to go through a lot of them. I would just kind of, I guess I'd like a little bit more time to go through them, if that's okay, just to make sure that what we're doing is okay. And, or what we talked about, things of that nature. I know Carly is here. I'm so sorry to do that to you. I am a little nervous about the rain we're getting and the growth of our lawns. But yeah, I think we should table till next time, and I want to get these in your packets so you have time to review them as well. I think last time we did approval, each one of them we approved, and I don't know that we're ready to go through that tonight and do it that way.
Okay.
That's okay, Carl. I'm so sorry.
So
Thank you for being here.
So Skylar, looking for to table.
Motion to table for tonight until our next meeting.
Okay.
And hopefully we don't have to do anything too drastic out there at that point in time.
Right. I moved the table till next meeting.
I'll second that.
Having a first and a second, I would ask for the commissioners to weigh in. Commissioner Barron to table. Dennis.
Aye.
Deutsch.
Aye.
Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. So we'll table that. Probably thank you and sorry. Skylar owes you something. Don't know what that is. Lunch, maybe.
Tonight we have a public hearing for.
Yes, public hearing. I'm sorry, number 11.
Yeah.
Designating and declaring certain areas of economic development area and allocation area to amend boundaries of the East Side Economic Development Area and its allocation area. Lots of areas.
Yeah. Alan, can you introduce this one?
Randy's here. There's my introduction.
Oh, never mind. Randy, I am so sorry. I did not even see you sitting there.
Attorney Rampola. We should make this fast.
Yes, sorry, I snuck in.
Thank you.
Randy Rampola with Barnes and Thornburg offices in South Bend. This is the final action of completing the action you took in January to designate the expansion area in the East Side Economic Development Area. The expansion area, as I understand it, is primarily the territory that was previously annexed by the city into the city. And so what this will do is expand that East Side area to pick up that territory. And so to allow the commission to use whatever incentives it has available to it, not only in the existing area, but also in the expansion area. It had been before the Plan Commission, it has been before the Common Council, each body approved. And so tonight, the final action is for you to conduct a public hearing, receive public input, and then consider the confirming resolution that's before you. I will note that the notice was published in the paper appropriately. I provided the proof of publication to Debbie, I think earlier today, Friday. I can't remember, but I know I did. Friday and today are blending in. And then also, and also Skylar sent notice to the owners that of the property in the expansion area, indicating that this hearing would be held tonight. That's one of the requirements. The last requirement is that the overlapping tax units receive a tax impact statement. And Andy Mauser and his folks at Baker Tilly made sure that was distributed appropriately, and they provided evidence of that as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. The resolution is fairly straightforward. It approves of the expansion, concludes the approving of the expansion. It lists out the reasons why and some findings of fact, indicating that this would help provide incentives for economic development, which will provide greater job opportunities than not doing it. And so with that, I'll stop to answer questions, but you do need to have a public hearing before you consider the resolution.
So I guess I start with Commissioner.
Just one more thing, just Rena,
Yeah.
just, and the reason why we want to do this tonight is so we can go retroactive back to January of this year for the base year for the increment to be measured against.
Exactly, correct, right.
Yeah, so public meeting. Yep. So public comment.
Yep.
Public, any comments from the public? No comments from the public. I'd go to the commissioners. Any comments?
I have a comment. Just as we stated, I know that on the council agenda in March, we passed the resolution to support this. So I know that it was unanimously voted on.
Thank you.
Can you help me out on the map, Exhibit A2?
I'm sorry?
Exhibit A2
Yes,
on the map?
yes. It's it all kind of blends. It's the pink area is the just below the blue.
Yeah. Can we annex that? So the only thing we did not include in the TIF, it is the northwest part of Swan Lake Cemetery, because Swan Lake was half in the county before we annexed and half in the city. We did not include that into, it's not designated as one of the parcels that was noticed. Okay. That's the only piece that was included. Other than that, all of the original annexers, I will call them, annexation area, were noticed, and they are included in this. I think the other carve out was the, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was South Shore carved out of it. I think there's a railroad in there somewhere that was carved out of it too. So anyways, those, so it's just that pink area, and it's basically what we annexed originally a couple years ago. And this is fulfilling part of our pre-agreement for annexation was to at least try to bring them into the East TIF, and this is fulfilling that obligation to that we committed to as a city. If I did that justice,
Yes.
Randy.
Yep.
I just had trouble reading the map.
I understand.
No other questions from the commission? Yeah, we close the public hearing at this point. Yeah, that's next. So next on the agenda, resolution 3.22 or 3-22, confirming the resolution amending boundaries of East Side Economic Development Area and approving amendment to Economic Development Plan for East Side Economic Development Area. Any comments from the commission?
No, I just move that we adopt resolution 322, confirming the resolution for the boundaries for the expansion of the East Side Economic Development Area.
Having a first and a second, I go to commissioners. Commissioner Barron.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Deutsch. Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. The resolution 3.3-22, confirming the resolution, has been approved. Attorney Rampola, thank you very
Thank
much
you, Randy.
for being here, and drive safe.
Oh, thank you.
Next on the agenda, station block update.
An update for the station block tonight is that we have received all of our letters of support. We collected about almost 30 letters of support from various organizations to include in our state tax request for development tax credits. We will be filing that application hopefully this week, is what I'm being told. It was pretty nice to see overwhelming support from local businesses and larger organizations across the region, not just here in Michigan City, but across the region, to really, I think a lot of people across the region understand the importance of this investment and the importance of kind of Michigan City becoming the halfway point between South Bend and Chicago, and kind of becoming a pinnacle a shining light for the region, if you will. So it was really nice to see that those come in and just come in waves. We are still working through. Tonight, we're also here to ratify our original agreement. You might recall at the last meeting, we approved a agreement with Flaherty and Collins, but we didn't have it quite finished yet. So, and we approved it pending finishing some comments that need to be included in it. And tonight we're here to ratify that agreement. And I'm going to let Alan take that and do a better explanation than I.
I think you did fine. It's just that when we were here at the special meeting, we approved and gave Chris the authorization to execute that agreement. But the commission wanted to see what exactly was changing from the agreement that was provided to them on March 26th. In a memo I had, what had changed between March 26th and then the ultimate final agreement that was executed on March 31st. I sent you a memo under date of April 1st, which showed what those, identified what those changes were. But the other part of that too was the fact that NICD requested and thought it would be cleaner if we rather just give approval, but we gave tentative approval on March 28th, I think, when we had the special meeting, and then tonight, in which they requested ratification at this point. So in effect, where we are at this point is that we have a tentative agreement subject to your approval tonight to go forth then with the mixed-use development project and reaching an agreement hopefully within the next 60 days. So that's where we are.
So tonight we're here to ratify that final agreement, and then that will basically satisfy our joint development agreement with NICD that we have in place. We've been in contact with them. They've asked us to do this, and we need to approve it. The chair had to take a small break.
Is he gonna be back or? Yeah. Okay.
So while we're waiting, as far as, so once this is done, what time clock starts? What happens? Are we just now moving forward with the project?
Day one started on April 1st.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we will have, hopefully, and that one can be not nearly as rigid as this one, but both parties can agree if we're 80% there in 60 days, both parties can agree to extend it X number of days as well. So,
Okay,
but again, as I said on the 28th, I mean, everybody wants this. Flaherty and Collins wants this. We want this. NICD wants this. Federal government wants this. Everybody wants this. So it's going to happen. We just
Right.
make sure that we've got
Just
everything
time it.
identified and
so they have 60 days beginning April 1, and if we decide to do an extension, we can.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Right now, my goal is to not do an extension. I would
Right.
really like to get this done in the time frame that we allocated. I know there's a lot to work through. We are meeting. We will resume more meetings this week yet to come. Yeah, some have already happened. We've been talking about various different things in the background. Like I've been talking with the developer himself and trying to get letters and, hey, we need this information about our city. So we've been trying to get all the document together to go to the state. So we have been doing a lot of work, but the goal is to stay within that 60-day timeframe, ideally.
I move that we ratify the agreement for the station block. And the parties, I should probably say who all the parties are. All right. So moved.
I'll
Yes.
second that motion.
Having a first and a second, I'll go down the list of commissioners. Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis,
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. So the motion passes. Thank you. Thanks for the detail, and apologize for the departure of the chair. Next on the agenda, South TIF Connectivity Improvement Project update.
Yes, I
Mr.
do.
York.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think we have Ryan on tonight. And I think Aaron's here as well, who's been engaged in that. Is there anything that can we get just a small update on that, Ryan and Aaron?
Hello?
We can hear you, Ryan.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can give you a brief update. I'll try to be as brief as I can. There's
Yes,
been
please.
quite a bit of progress on this project since the last meeting and a couple meetings ago. So I'll skip some of the things that I sent. I sent you a more detailed written project status update, which I'm sure you all can review at your leisure. So I'll skip some of the things that are in there and just kind of touch on maybe the most important things. One of which is the sort of bifurcation of this broader South TIF connectivity improvements project into the construction contract number 1, which incorporates the sidewalks in and around Highway 421, Westman Drive, Larkspur Lane, and a pedestrian crossing at Highway 421 and Larkspur Lane. Project management of that has been transferred from myself to Jeff Wright, who is now employed by Haas and Associates. So if you guys have any questions or concerns regarding that portion of this project, you can still address me if you'd like, but you can also ask those questions to Jeff Wright. Everything else, you should continue to direct those questions to myself. We have been receiving some access authorization letters from DLZ, which has been great. Up until about a month ago, we hadn't received anything. So we've since that time gotten quite a few of them, which is making it possible for us to go in and do additional geotechnical surveying and wetland surveying in those areas. We don't have all of them that are necessary at this point. We still need access authorization in 2 parcels that are part of the Town Center Drive extended area. So we'll still be waiting for that information. But all topographic surveying is complete at this point. Geotechnical investigation is mostly complete, but we're going to be completing some additional work here very soon with the new access authorizations that we received. Wetland surveying is also somewhat tied up with the lack of access authorization in Town Center Drive extended area. But so once we have that access authorization granted, then we should be able to wrap that up and have one big report generated for all the wetlands on the South TIF project. Permitting, I think I'll skip over that section and just get to the kind of scheduling and preliminary design. We presented preliminary designs to the RDC, Aaron in particular, and Jeff Wright met with Aaron on site to review those for the construction contract number 1. Aaron subsequently approved those preliminary designs, and those are moving in swiftly into final design. We would anticipate being ready to let that project for bidding very soon. Of course, that's contingent upon securing the necessary land rights for the sidewalks on Highway 421, Larkspur Lane, and then also securing the NDOT permit for the pedestrian crossing. But it seems likely that we are still well on schedule for letting that project to bidding by no later than July 1st and probably significantly earlier, but I don't want to make any promises just yet regarding that. And then regarding the rest of the project, preliminary design is still underway, and we hope to be able to share some of that information with you guys soon. So that's my brief update for you, and I can try to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions from the commissioners?
No action,
Yeah,
but
it's just a good update.
it's good to hear
Thanks,
that
Ryan.
we're still on schedule, Ryan. Thank you.
Yep.
Aaron, did you have anything to add?
So Ryan, while you're here, thank you for that update. We'd ask if you, since you're on the phone and here with us, to give the Von Tobel drainage improvement project update as well. And I'll turn that over to Attorney Cernick.
Just by way of history, back when we were doing the flex buildings out there on Highway 20, and we, as part of that project, we put a right turn in on 20 as it related to Cleveland Road. And part of that had to do with then, in terms of putting that in, Haas and Associates were overseeing the implementation of that project, and making sure that everything was done as related to the NDOT, and then also the overall project objectives. Part of that project then grew into a water main by the water department. When they saw us with what our plans were for that, they were worried about the fact that where the right-of-way was going to be would make it impractical to do any kind of repairs that may be necessary on that main. And so while we were all out there together, we moved the water main probably to the south of where this project, not much, but to the south of where it was. And then both the Redevelopment Commission and the city were putting in this project. The problem with that, or what happened as a result of that, is we either, if your terminology is collateral damage or unintended consequences, but the net result ended up being that we caused a flooding problem for the Von Tobel business that sits there, exasperated a little bit by the fact that there was also a culvert down there that's Von Tobel's responsibility to fix. So where we end up at this point then is, what do we need to do to get everything all fixed at once? And so we've had a couple of different meetings with Von Tobel, the water department, and Haas and Associates. And so before this meeting, I gave you a schedule of pay items. Where we ended up in the meeting is the fact that the Redevelopment Commission would authorize expenditures for certain kind of repairs to be made to alleviate the flooding. The water department would also contribute money to alleviate the flooding. And then, of course, Von Tobel would end up fixing their culvert, which is not included in this pay items. The fourth item down there for 646325 is the water department's portion of this. The rest of it would be relating to what we need to be doing, again, to address this problem, this unintended consequence that's happened. With a total cost then that's being requested here tonight of $26,650.88, knowing that $6,463.25 will be reimbursed to the commission from the water department. So, Ryan, did I get that covered pretty good?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So that's really where we are with that. And again, I mean, Haas and Associates have assisted with the engineering, overseeing the engineering, and basically came up with a plan that all parties are in agreement with. And that's what you have before you tonight.
I'm sorry, I'm doing some math.
So I have a question. So what we're asking for is that we approve the total amount and then just state that we're going to be reimbursed by the water department for the $6,463.25. And is this coming from the South TIF?
Yes.
Okay.
This would be self.
Okay, so I move that we pay for the bid total for the I'm gonna call it Von Tobel drainage improvement with the fact that the redevelopment commission will be reimbursed $6,463.25 of this total bid from the Michigan City Water Department.
So I would add that our, after the reimbursement, redevelopment would have a responsibility of $20,000, $20,187.63 after the reimbursement, just so that we're clear that we're going to get that. So Attorney Cernick, the clarification from the water department to get that money back?
We just build them and.
We build them.
We've done
Okay.
this before. We
Okay.
build them and they.
I
pay
just,
us.
yeah. I just,
And they're in agreement with that.
yeah, okay.
They
Good.
they didn't know the dollar amount until now.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
It certainly is not unreasonable.
That's fine. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
One more thing, just a point for clarification, is the fact that Haas and Associates also put out a request for quotes. I think Ryan told me earlier today they put out 5 or 6 different quotes. Woodruff and Sons were the only ones that responded to that. We know Woodruff and Sons, we know they do good work. So, all legal requirements have been satisfied.
Thank you for that update.
I'll second the motion.
Having a first and a second, go to Commissioners, Commissioner Barron.
Because I happen to be on the water board, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Commissioner Dennis,
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch, Commissioner Hendricks,
Aye.
and the Chair Chatfield is aye. The motion passes. I would again thank Commissioner Barron for his abstaining from voting. Next on the agenda, Your Beautiful site update. So the motion passes. Your Beautiful site update. Skylar York.
Yes, so you may recall we have executed an agreement with developers at the Your Beautiful site. From that point, once we executed that agreement, they have a 90-day period to, get organize their partnership, and then also to start kind of preliminary entitlements and research into the property. At this point, they've hired engineers. I've been working with their engineers, providing them environmental documents, surveys that we have in-house. Anything that we have in our possession, I've handed over to them at this time, but they have gotten their engineers in place. The engineers have been out, they've been surveying so far. And then we have had numerous discussions, just keeping me up to date on what they're doing on their end and making sure that we're progressing along to the point at 90 days where we can take this to the next level, if we and they so choose.
Any questions for Mr. York? All right. Hearing none, we'll go to item 16, 1215 East 2nd Street update and approvals.
I do believe we have Mr. Steve Murray here tonight representing Burnham. Thank you, Steve, for being very patient. I know you got things to do.
No, it's all good. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Which is
Appreciate the time,
actually
guys.
very important.
Yeah,
It's
it's an important job.
Yeah, so we are requesting an extension on the project by having our financing in place by the April 14th. So we're looking for an extension to the end of the month. I have a little timeline of our financing of what we've been doing our due diligence to get this done. February 1st, we received our conditional approval from Centier Bank. On February 7th, we reviewed, negotiated those terms, and signed the final letter on the 7th. The loan was referred to the RDC, the Regional Development Corporation, for SBA approval by Centier immediately. And then on February 14th, we received the application and the list of items that we needed to turn into the SBA. We completed that on February 18th, with supplements requested on 222, 224, and 228, all completed by 3/4. On 323, the RDC reached out for clarification on an item, which we were able to provide by 324. And then on 4/4, we received a notification of approval by the Regional Development Committee and the Loans Committee, and it was passed on to the SBA on that day. And we were told that the turnaround time for the SBA to approve was 8 to 10 business days. So we're looking at a projected approximately 4/18 of being approved by the SBA. So 4 days after our. So yes, we're after we have the SBA final approval, we will be ready to close, assuming that the lender and the ECDC and and the MC are all ready to go. I've got our architects on standby waiting to send our plans downstate as soon as we have approval from the SBA. And then I've talked with, we are going with Ton and Blank as our contractor, to try to get this done in a quicker fashion. So we've talked with them and they should have no quarrels or any problems starting as soon as that plans are approved by downstate. So, which according to my architects, average times right now are around a month for getting approved, for getting plans approved downstate. So with all that said, we are hoping that we should be starting construction around June 1st or beginning of June sometime. So
Scott, I would just say that this is just the natural progression of where we're at. I don't think it's any fault of Burnham for asking for the extension. I think they've been doing a pretty diligent job of getting everything organized. We have, the Redevelopment Commission has remediated the furnace. You might recall you guys approved that. So we've taken out your furnace that needed to be remediated for asbestos, or I'm sorry, the boiler, my fault, not the furnace. We left the furnace, the boiler's gone. And then a further commitment that we are going to be doing is installing of a water main for your new water service that was part of the agreement. So we still have a couple of things that we need to do complete on our side as well. So
The only thing, Steve did everything I asked him to do. But just for your all's reference, is that when we executed the agreement on November 15th, the project needed to be completed within 150 days or Friday. So the purpose of the extension was to keep it consistent with that agreement. That gets us to the end of the month. But again, I would just echo what Steve said. These guys have busted tail to get this thing done within the parameters of the agreement. Sometimes dealing with bankers, dealing with, since you take shots at attorneys, dealing with bankers, but dealing with bureaucracy more than dealing with bureaucracy more than anything else, I think is really what they've run into more than anything else. But we should be good by the end of the month, hopefully.
So my question is end of the month sufficient, or should we, that's it? I mean, if we say April 30th, are we going to be good? Is there going to be?
Yeah, what we've heard from Nicole Zell at the RDC in Valpo, that this 8 to 10 business days is typical, and that should put us at the 18th.
Okay.
Hoping to actually close on the loan and close on the project with you guys. So looking around the 22nd to the 25th is what we've been told. So
Okay, good.
should be enough.
All right.
Should we make it to May 9th, our next meeting, just in case?
Yeah, that's my concern. That's why I'm asking, should the motion be our next meeting date, just in case?
It's fine with me.
And that gives you a little time and whatever. So is it May 9th or 10th?
So I'll jump in real quick. So my experience as a commercial lender dealing with the regional development company over the last 20 years is they typically do not send a deal, a transaction to the Small Business Administration that they don't believe in.
Yeah.
So their loan committee is they're very, very tough. So the confidence I have in this getting approved in the next 4 or 5 or 7 days is very high. It would be prudent for us, as Commissioner Deitch said, maybe we go to the 10th of next month.
May 9th would be our next meeting. May 9th.
Yeah, so maybe we go to the 10th.
Okay.
So that
I see what you're saying.
that allows us to, if we're not closed by the
Okay.
or not closed, I'm sorry, but closed by the 9th, we can extend.
We can extend it.
But I
do this.
The attorneys can work through the details of title work and all those pieces to make sure that that happens. Correct.
Alan, when are we
I'm okay with that.
Alan, when are we making the transfer?
That's the other thing I was gonna get to, though, assuming then that they get their approval within the next, by the end of the week or so, we also need to be in a position, and we've approved this through the contract. But maybe just as a point of clarification, we will then at that point then convey the property from us to the EDC, who in turn then will sell it to Burnham. So,
Transfer.
transfer.
So what you're saying is that those are two. Yeah, I was gonna say, do we do two motions, or do we? Because we have to do the extension,
We do the extension.
and then once that is completed, then we have to move to approve the conveyance of the property,
Correct.
right? So those are
Consistent with the agreement, yes.
okay.
Per se, no, we've approved the concept.
Okay, so we're good. So
All
we
right.
only need the one
Okay.
motion.
So we need, a motion with
Yeah.
two pieces.
Okay, so I move that we extend the date for the 1215 East Second Street to May 10th. And upon obtaining the funding,
Approval.
And all approvals, I guess. obtaining-
Approval from the SBA.
approval from the SBA for the conveyance of the property
To the EDC.
to the EDC. Writing that down. All right.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll second that motion.
We're good.
However it is conveyed, yeah, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
I was just gonna say the EDC has a meeting coming up, so that's why hence the timing that I know Alan's been I think it's the 24th. Alan's been working with him to clarify when that needs to happen. And theoretically, hopefully we hear back before then, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And so that we can kind of simultaneously do all that.
Yeah.
And then the EDC turns around.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, I think the goal is for us to convey the property to the EDC in time for their April 21st meeting so that they can accept it.
Mhm.
So that's where we're looking at.
Okay. So I have a motion on the table. Oh, and a second, I'm sorry.
And I seconded it.
Yeah, Commissioner Hendricks, thank you so much. So the motion as prepared, I'd go down the commissioners list. Commissioner Barron. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks,
Have a
Steve.
good night.
Have a great night. Thanks so much.
I can take this one. So
17 is the Marquette Mall market study.
So for many years, I know there's a lot of questions about what happens to the Marquette Mall. What do we need to do with it? It's always one of the top things brought up at lots of public meetings that we're at. I believe Vibrant Communities, it was brought up numerous times. It may have even made it on the top 5 list of that, which was led by our Unity Foundation, and really it was a countywide plan, and it was still brought up at a countywide level. So a few months ago, I brought the commission a proposal for to really think strategically about the mall. If the north end is kind of the train station and some of the other projects that we're doing, I would say the mall is equally important into our south side of the city. It's 50 acres of land approximately. It has a few different owners, but there are some majority landowners there that own probably well into 70 or 80% of the land there. The Redevelopment Commission at the time when I made the proposal asked me to speak with all the property owners, to which Clarence and I have met with all of them, all the large owners. We've included a couple of the small owners that make sense. from a land planning standpoint or a positioning of land, vacant land, things of that nature. At this point in time, we have a pretty aggressive schedule, but we would like to do basically a master planning and a kind of a master plan for the 50 acres, being respectful of what's there now. We're not displacing people, things of that nature. We're not trying to this point in time, the goal is not to relocate or displace. That is not the goal. The goal is to think about strategically in the future. How do we get a developer in there, or how do we help the current landowners develop in a manner that we want to see down there, or that makes sense? That really puts that mall back into, either demolishes it or puts it back into some type of viable use, where it's not just passive, it's more commerce, driving commerce. It's active. It's not a vacant parking lot or vacant buildings. So what we've asked we have a proposal before us tonight from Town Planning. Town Planning is based out of Franklin, Tennessee. They specialize. This is one of their specialties. They take underutilized or vacant or just redevelopable land, and they do 50-acre plans, 100-acre plans, hundreds of acres plans. But right now, we're working with Town Planning in our current transit development district. So they're already familiar with our zoning code and our city, very much so. And they understand that while it may not be downtown, there is a relationship to our city, and there is a relationship in how it fits into our city, or this 50-acre plot could be redeveloped and fit into our city. So with that being said, what we've asked them to do is really a master plan, but also a market study. We don't want just a plan that says that we should build something there that's theoretical. We really want it to be based in market. What is driving the pretty pictures, if you will? What creates this? Like, don't give us high rises there if it's not feasible to do that. We really want something that's market driven. It could include some new roads being punched through. It could include some new infrastructure being put in, repositioning of land, systematic or selected demolition. It could have any of those elements in it. But our goal is to really be able to, from myself as the Redevelopment Commission Executive Director, and I think from the EDC standpoint, and as representatives of the property owners who have real estate representatives of their own, so that they can be able to market this land. So that's really what we're doing. We're trying to give them a product that really is helpful and hopefully can help them so that they don't have to go pay for the market study or do the pretty pictures themselves. We will be basically investing in that piece of it with the hope and the expectation that they're on board with, they are on board with helping find developers or developing themselves as we kind of plan it out. This could include rezoning as well. That would not be an act of us, that would be an act of the Planning Commission. But this company will help us kind of analyze what zoning we think should be there from a planning standpoint, but it also makes sure that we're not putting something there that could be intrusive or be a detriment to the existing businesses that are there. So that's kind of the goal of this. I know it's pretty robust in the scope of it, but it is a very quick time frame. We want this done by May 21st in anticipation of a site selector conference that is happening, so that we will be able to take this and market it at a site selector conference. And there's various other avenues that we have already programmed to basically get this information in the hands of developers who do this, take on big pieces of land, especially vacant malls, and redevelop them. So tonight before you, I have a proposal. Let's see here. Well, this is not going to work. It doesn't have the number on it. Yes, thank you. This is a bad. So the total number right now is $118,35. $118,035.00, correct? We did carve about $15,000 out of this, just because we don't really need to we don't need them to do certain things for them. I can perform some of that due diligence for them and provide them information. I don't need them to find it. I already have it in my possession. Just need to provide it over. I have personally met again with all of the owners, and they're all shaking their heads saying they're on board, including the mall owner and the mall representative. So that's what's before you tonight, and hopefully you will hopefully approve this. We have talked with Cablin's Hardware. We have been in close contact, probably talked to them the most, and they're wanting to do some development there. They own a lot of land. They've bought land around it. We've also talked to Sears as well. Sears has a new owner, if I'm not mistaken, and we've met with them. They're trying to figure out what to do with Sears. So they saw this as helpful because Sears is an interesting building. It has a car center in it. I don't think we want a car center there. It may not be the best use there anymore. So, this would help them kind of define what they want to do. And then the mall owner, through Mr. Vladimir Gans, who is their representative for real estate, we've talked with them as well. And we actually have some new businesses that are moving in along the frontage. So we want to be able, the frontage is nice, but we also want to take care of the middle of that parcel as well, and make sure that we get some value out of that as well. So that's what the proposal is tonight. It's
No. It's the total is 118,035. Is the total. I think the initial proposal had another $15,000 added into it. Skylar went back to them and said those pieces were things that he could provide himself with his department.
Yep.
So he was able to shave.
I would ask that you keep in mind this is 50 acres we're talking about. It is not small by any means, and there is a lot of. It's not just a green field of 50 acres. Yeah. This is a redevelopment project, and it has a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. So before my comments, I just go to the commission and ask their thoughts.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. So, last week I attended Smart Cities Conference in Columbus, Ohio. And, we talked about, smart infrastructure and doing things once, big and once, being thoughtful on the problems that, regions are facing, which for us is housing, is one of the main ones. But, they talked about the planning, and I look at Columbus because one of the things that struck me, they won a huge award, but in 10 years, they increased population 100,000 people in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then Central Ohio, the region increased 240,000 people in 10 years with their census tract. And that was done. I mean, I look at the region and all the things that are happening with TDD and all those things. And these large parcels are going to be so important for the direction of our area, but it doesn't just impact Michigan City. It impacts the whole entire county. So definitely supportive of finally getting this. This is one of the things that everybody's mentioned, as far as what are we going to do with it. So I know others may have comments, but I definitely would support this because I think it's a step in the right direction.
Any other commissioner comments? Hearing none, I'll just weigh in on this. I agree with Commissioner Deitch that this is a piece of land that is somewhat the gateway to Michigan City as people drive in, whether it's on 20 or whether it's on 421. They come into town. It's been blighted, however you want to, or whatever terminology you want to use. We have some very good tenants in the mall now that have really have done a yeoman's job in providing commerce to that space and the outlots. However, it's clear the owner is not in a state of mind that there's going to be a large investment to do something different. So I think it's it's beholden upon us, and Redevelopment Commission is the economic development arm of the city to find out what's out there. And so I support this project and this study. I do commend Skylar on the fact that he saved us, 10% or so of the project cost. But and then the next step is to go out and peddle this to developers. I think there is a utilization of this property. Cablein is motivated. They have great ideas. And so Skylar and his group have done a very nice job in trying to figure out what the next steps are. So I think it's a good next step. So
I have a question. I know that you're asking them to complete this by towards the end of May. Is that enough time for the company to actually put together a comprehensive report?
They're telling me if they can get started immediately, it is a time to maybe not have the final to us, but they would have something in our hands that Clarence could then take with him and pedal, if you will. I hate using that word, but they're telling me me and Clarence met with them. We were very adamant that we had to have something by then, and they said they can.
Okay, with that in mind, because I agree with everything that Chris and Angie said, I move that we approve going ahead with having a plan done for the Marquette Mall property in the amount of $118,035.
Second.
if I could only add one item to that, is that we make sure that the date that we get that back. 21st of
May is what we're looking
of May,
for.
and that I could that we would allow Skylar to execute the agreement.
Yeah,
for that purpose.
We would still need to get a contract, and Alan would need to review that contract. They haven't gotten a contract. This has been a very recent thing, but in order to get done by that date, it kind of needed to happen immediately. That's why I brought it to you.
So as long as I guess we can add a additional piece there that once Alan approves it, Skylar can execute it, and we can.
Do you need an amendment to the motion?
I don't think so. I think that's enough. I believe.
I think we're good.
Yeah, good. Having a first and a second, I will go through the roll call. Commissioner Barron. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch. Aye. Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye, approving the Marquette Mall market study. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys. I think it's very important for us to at least give consideration down there. I did want to just introduce it and just say that I am going to ask to table this tonight. I have asked for an updated downtown market study for housing. And I would ask that we table that tonight. And the reason being that I need to understand the geographic boundary of that. It's not a citywide market study, but our downtown is going to change a little bit if the station block goes in. So I want to make sure that we're capturing that. And I would like a little bit more time to make sure that they understand the geographic boundaries of that.
I move the table, the approval of the housing study update till next meeting.
I'll second that.
Having a first and second on the tabling of the approval of Tracy Cross housing study. Commissioner Barron. Aye. Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Deitch. Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair's aye. Motion passes. The EV, next on the agenda, EV charging station update and approvals. I will turn that over to our esteemed colleague, Aaron.
Once again, Aaron Borgaber, Assistant Planning Director for the record. So this is for so back, I believe it's 2020 now. Skylar requested approval for $40,000 for a grant through IDEM as a part of the Volkswagen Diesel Emissions Environmental Mitigation Trust. So that was part of that grant was to go out and install 2 EV stations capable of charging 4 vehicles. And get reimbursed for $18,000. So I have gone out for requests for quotes and received 2 back. One was from Ozinga, which was an amount of $38,980. Their scope of work is not considered turnkey. And I did ask for a turnkey scope. That was way that basically they're one contract. We don't have to consult with, either the streets department because they're busy with their own work or anyone else. And everything's just ready to go from there. The next one was for Marcus Electric, which is turnkey, and that is an amount of $57,782. So the original allocated cost of the project was $40,000. So staff recommends approval to execute a contract with Marcus Electric in the amount of $57,782. And that's really just because we have an existing relationship. They put forward quality work. They've been very responsive during the request for quote process. They reached out to NIPSCO already, as well as they're a local firm.
I would also add it's a turnkey project, right? It's striping, everything down to painting, if you will.
The only thing we have to turn on is the electric.
Yeah.
And I do have 3 motions as recommended as a part of this. I'm not going to read it word from word, but just to allocate the increased sum if we do go with this contractor to execute a contract with the contractor. And then the third one is, and it's been a question, move direct staff to create and execute a service to facilitate the charging of the actual charging of money of the services at the EV station, which we can do as a part of the grant. No matter which contractor we go with, we will be reimbursed $18,000 from IDEM.
Yeah. Just by way of a little bit of background, just to expand, I'm sorry, I'll be very brief. I know we're got to get going. This is a project that was brought to the Redevelopment Commission from the Sustainability Commission. They wanted to apply for this grant. This is part of the VW funds, mitigation funds. They went ahead and applied for it. They asked the Redevelopment Commission to provide the match since it's in the downtown. The area where we're looking to install these in is what we call colloquially the goat lot. I hate calling it that, but it's at the corner of 8th and Washington. We would take 5 spaces there. Correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. 5 spaces. And we would also, we've been requested that one of those spaces would be an ADA space to provide for accessibility to EV charging.
It should be on the second page. There is a makeshift site plan, which kind of shows it's going in the northeast corner. The quotes are slightly different. The equipment charges slightly faster in one, but doesn't operate as cold, which can be an issue here. We do get pretty cold here sometimes, but also where the electricity is coming from. The preferred way would probably be to have, there's a NIPSCO pole right there, and that's where the power will be installed directly, which the preferred contractor is doing. The other one will add additional meters or service and then tunnel underneath the parking lot.
There's 5 charging stations, but there's 2 units.
There is 2 charging stations for a total of 4 vehicles. We're just using 5 parking spaces to add an additional, well, as much as ADA compliant. I don't know if we have the quite space
We
for
have
it.
to, so Ken, to answer that question, we would have to take the 5th space to make it where you could exit out of the car appropriately, things of that nature. But I think that's a really good request of the Sustainability Commission, especially to make it equitable for everyone to access, in my opinion.
Who will manage the payments and the maintenance of the facility?
So at this time, that has not been defined. Part of the motion 3, the recommended motion, is for staff to execute a service that would handle that. Right now, the city does have an EV charging station at Millennium Park. I believe the Parks Department currently pays for that in the amount of $300 to $500 a year. This is a situation where, for environmental friendly, climate change and other such policies, a lot of governments are encouraging EV stations in order to help facilitate the transition to EVs. So if you would like to, you can skip number 3 and just pay for it ourselves as a part of our general electric bill, or we could allow staff to find a service that will execute that and have it at low cost or no cost to the city or the redevelopment commission in this case.
I think I think you're going to see a transition in EV charging in the future. I wouldn't doubt in the next 10, maybe 5 years that it's a part of everyday planning. Like you're building a new parking lot, just like ADA parking spaces, you got to have 10 per whatever chargers. And I think it's something we should definitely consider as we move forward as a city and building our new parking garages as well, when we have development plans come through.
I have a question. Do we know, how did you come to choose 4 stations? Do we have any idea how many electric cars are currently in this region or this area of Michigan?
We do not. I do know that at Meyer, there is the Teslas actually are expanding their superchargers, as well as been several other inquiries. However, the grant actually does require 2 charging units and 4 vehicles. So it's a requirement of the grant.
Yeah. Originally, we were only going to get 1. And actually, the director of this program said, if you guys want another one, go ahead and apply. So we got 2 out of this grant.
Would we want to consider transferring this to the city? The parking lot?
Eventually, I think, I wouldn't disagree with you, Ken. That's probably a discussion we can have. Right now, I think it makes it very easy for us to do this project because it's ours. But it is public parking there. I know where you're going with. I see where you're going with it. So
They administer the charging of it.
Yeah.
Since they're already in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that might be something like he was saying, for us to execute a service agreement. It might be that we need to. I know Nancy's looking at more chargers for downtown in the future. And with where we're going, you're probably going to see more chargers. I'm not sure. I'm not saying the city should delve into that, but should we do that? I'm not saying we're going to make a profit off of it, but we should at least break even to some extent, maybe in the future. So that's just my comment. And like I said, especially if we're going to be building or incentivizing building of stations or parking structures in the future.
I guess I would, my commentary here would be that when I was on the park board, we approved Millennium Park for charging stations. I don't believe today that they're charging for those.
The $300 to $500 is the city pays for it.
The city pays for it, but so they're not charging. So if somebody comes in to charge their car, there's no credit card transaction.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So I believe that's true. I think there'll be a time that we maybe do that. And I think Scott is right that at some point in time, all new parking lots will require that there are some EV charging stations. So, I think it's the wave of the future. We're on the front end of it. What I would say that, or what I would request, Aaron, would be that we, as we move forward, that whatever the cost to redevelopment, and if we can move that to the city, as Commissioner Barron has talked about, that we move that cost to the city, that annual cost, that we start to look at that, and that if there's a way, and then we have to do a cost analysis, right? On, if we're going to put credit card machines on them, which is easy to do, or they're already set there.
They're already there.
We just have to initiate that, right? And then, so I think we need a 2-year analysis to look at it and say how much usage is they're going, what are we paying, and is there a benefit for us to start charging? So, but it's not going to be the first year, for sure.
Just looking at a Millennium, 300 to 500, I would say these are a little bit more I won't say accessible, but I would say that there's a lot that they're visible. They're more accessible. Millennium is nice, but it's kind of caters probably to, if you're going to the beach or things like that. These are in our downtown, and I think they're going to be used more, and it'd be interesting to see what the use is.
Sorry, my only questions, my last question. So if I have an EV car, electric car, and I want to get electricity, my battery's low. I go onto a website and I can find this place on 8th.
All right, so I don't know from personal experience, but I have looked into personally buying an EV. Depending on, for Tesla, that's already built into the system.
Sure.
These wouldn't be built in.
Yep.
For non-Tesla vehicles, they usually just happen to be on Google Maps at some point in my experience, or there is actually a network that kind of lists charging stations. People will find them,
I think it's
especially for not charging.
I think it's part of the grant. They go into a system. I believe that's what happens as part of that grant. I asked that question. I was like, well, so how does people know they're here? And I believe the director told me that they go into a program that they have that puts them on a map of some sort. I don't know a lot about this. He knows quite a bit about EV. So
Because you could drive around and all of a sudden you run out of battery. Trying to find.
Well, hopefully people are planning a bit better.
So my only request is to make sure that we review this annually to make sure that we're looking at the cost and whether we need to go to the next step to charge
All right.
money.
So I have a question. Well, I guess it's the will of the commission, because the presented, if we want to start going through the motions, they recommended three separate motions for us in our packet. The first one is, and I'll just do it. I move to allocate the sum of $57,782 for the installation of EV charging stations downtown.
Could you make them all together?
I don't think they should be together.
Separate. Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Should we specify the location?
I did not, as presented in the recommendation of
8th in Washington.
8th in Washington by the Assistant Planning Director.
I move to approve the motion.
Oh, I need a
That's
second.
a second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Having a first and a second. I'll go through the commissioner list. Commissioner Barrett.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. Motion passes as presented by Commissioner Deitch.
The next one is, I move to execute a contract with Marquis Electric in the amount of $57,782,000. Yeah, $782 for the installation of EV charging stations downtown at 8th and Washington.
Second.
Having a first and a second as the motion presented by Commissioner Deitch. Commissioner Barrett.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. So the Commissioner Deutsch's motion passes, which is item number 2.
So question, item 3. I kind of heard a couple of different things. So we talked about having something reviewed, the finance reviewed annually. This one is specifically giving direction to the staff to facilitate the services. We set minimum goal of 0 cost to the commission. It's kind of a generic statement. Are we saying we don't want to charge, or?
So the original intent of that recommendation was to either eliminate our cost completely or minimize that cost as much as possible. And that was based on conversations with Skylar as well as Chris prior to when the staff report is basically being written. And you're right, it's been gone both ways to either annually evaluate it to see how much it's actually costing. And I do know some cities have been not charging for that, but they're trying to also push the adoption of EVs as a vehicle. So it's really just going to be at the pleasure of the commission to decide which path you would like to go forward. And also, if we do an annual review, for example, that doesn't mean we can't charge in the future. We're just looking at how much it's actually going to cost and then deciding therefore, because it could be a very small cost. Electricity is per kilowatt relatively cheap comparatively, at least in this area.
Well, I move to direct the staff to bring a to I don't want to charge, so I'm trying to, you still have to have the services in place. You have to execute some type of agreement, right?
So the service is really in particular of creating a charging mechanism for paying for the electricity being used. So if I'm understanding correctly, such a motion could be motion staff to create an annual review for the commission to review the costs on a yearly basis without charging.
At this point in time, yes.
So
So
similar language to that.
I'll have you clean the language up, but I move to direct the staff to to create a plan for zero charging at this time, pending annual review on services charging of services at the installed EV stations in the future.
So maybe we can clean that up a little bit more, because charging is twofold in this scenario: charging of the vehicle and charging of money. So,
Oh, that's true.
right. So that on an annual basis, the
Financial.
the
charging.
planning department will bring back to the redevelopment commission on an analysis of how much we spent, so that we can make a determination on whether we need to charge money for cars to be charged at these.
Ooh, that's a long one. So go back and review this recording to get the actual motion.
You know what you want to do.
But it's for free for the first year until you come back with the recommendation on financial analysis next year.
Understood.
All right. That's my motion.
I'll second the motion.
I will
Whatever
not
it is.
interject anymore. Having a first and a second, I'd ask for the pleasure of the board, the commission, Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis, Commissioner Deitch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Nay, I think we should charge. But
Because you work for NIPSCO. Well, but you're still getting paid. I mean, so technically, I understand. And no disrespect there. So, and the chair is aye. So the motion as it is so written has been approved. Thank you. Number 20 tonight, the request to utilize
I can take this one
the
real quick.
Chrysler parking lot at 11th and Michigan.
So this is a request. It's twofold, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So there's a request for us tonight to utilize the parking lot at 11th and Michigan Boulevard, which is the old former Chrysler auto dealer. Right now, it has a lot of storage on it. That storage is with Walsh and Herzog. They have a lot of construction material there. They are formally requesting permission to have that there, but they would only like to use basically what I would call the edges of this property, basically the frontage along Michigan Boulevard and a portion like that. If you recall, that property comes to a point, basically the triangular point of that property. They have some storage there as well, but this is would be for the duration of construction through Michigan City. We are already allowing NICD to store the facade of the former station inside our building right there. So it's already being used as a staging area for the construction. The other piece of this is that one of the churches in the immediate vicinity, which is the Baptist church there on the corner of Maple and I believe it's 9th or 10th. I think it's 10th Street. 10th. They had an agreement with a parking lot located across 11th Street to the south of 11th Street, down Maple and on the south of 11th Street. They cannot get to that parking lot because of this construction, and they're having issues with some of their elderly people being able to really get access or being on hard surfaces, things of that nature to get. Basically, parking is an issue for them, but really related to elderly and things of that nature. So what I'm proposing is that Walsh Herzog takes the corners and the edges of our property for storage, but directly behind our building is a fenced-in area that directly connects to Maple Street via an alley, a short alley. There used to be an alley that went all the way through. This alley is probably 40 foot long at the most. But it directly connects to Maple Street right beside the church. What I would think would be a great opportunity for us to make sure that we are providing the appropriate parking. It's a hard surface. It's paved. It's actually in relatively good shape. Once we do our PR landscaping contracts, part of that is to take care of the management of that building. I would have them clean up the edges just from winter debris that's blown in there, pushing of snow, etc. But I would like to at least offer that up to the church to make them whole, to make sure that we're providing necessary parking management for them. And like I said, it is a great connection because it's right directly adjacent to that church. They also can't park in a lot behind them because Maple Street has been they've basically taken out about 8 inches of asphalt there, so you can't get to that either. So it's causing a little bit of burden to the church, but it's also causing a burden to the neighborhood. It's overloading all their parking in the neighborhood. So it's a complaint that has come to me, and I think we have an opportunity that we can mitigate it, and this is a way we can mitigate it and make whole to some extent, but it would be for the duration of construction at least. Anyways, I would offer that up to the commission we obviously would have to have the appropriate agreements in place or insurance in place, for us, a liability insurance, things of that nature. But at least we could go back to the respective people who are requesting this. And I've already talked to Walsh and explained to them the position of the church. They were in agreement to that, and they would not block off any entrances to that parking lot, alleyways. They're not even going to use that area. They're only interested in because they're bringing in big trucks. They're only interested in what's around the edges and that point, the triangular point. So I would offer it up for any discussion, and just that's kind of what's come to light in all this.
So to clarify, it's not temporary storage. It's for them to park.
It is absolutely
and access.
Absolutely. It's an overflow parking for, I'm assuming they probably go Wednesday nights and Sunday nights.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, it's Pastor Lane, and I've conversated with him a couple of times, and this is really the only option that we have for parking. It is the only option. We looked at several different things, and this is the only option to support some additional parking for that church.
Okay. Yeah, and they do have a pretty good attendance. I mean, I personally went down there this past Sunday and drove through there, and it's there's a lot of cars.
Busy.
It's busy. Yeah,
Okay.
It's very busy.
Okay. Any comments or questions from Mr. York?
I would just ask, if we do choose to do this, if we choose to do this in the form of a motion, we make pending receipt of the appropriate liability insurance to satisfaction of Attorney Saranac.
Okay. Do we need anything else?
Give formal approval for them to use as a parking garage or a parking lot, and I think you also need to give formal approval to Walsh to use as a storage. But again, we're okay with doing that, but we're okay with that contingent upon receiving insurance coverage, removing the city and the Redevelopment Commission from any harm.
All right. So now we're gonna do it.
Okay.
so
All right.
formally,
Okay,
so.
no, yeah, yeah, that's,
All right, so I move to approve Walsh and Herzog's utilization of the Chrysler parking lot for storage along the edges, and for Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church to utilize a portion for parking pending liability insurance.
I'll second the motion.
thank you. Good conversation. Having the first and the second, Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis, Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye, so the motion passes. We just need to make sure those items get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Before we get to the most important part of this meeting, the approval of Adams Park stormwater wetland proposal.
Yes, thank you for that. Give me just a second. Sorry. So a few years ago, we applied for a grant for Adams Park. Adams Park is in the south of the city, south side of the city. We have been doing we've had some repaving projects in there, our South Gateway improvement, transportation improvement projects in that area. There's numerous things happening down there. Adams Park has traditionally been a place for baseball, but it is next to a wetland. There is already a wetland in part of the park. It's a very underutilized park from a baseball standpoint. It doesn't get to see much happening there right now. But a few years ago, I'm working in conjunction with the Parks Department and the Sanitary District. They would take.
Would you be so kind to give us the cross streets?
Oh gosh, man, you're gonna ask me that, really?
That's all right.
let me get them for you.
Is that on Liberty?
No,
Southwood.
give me just a second. I'll get it for you. Give me just a second. I'm so sorry. I should have been.
Southwood, didn't it?
I believe it's on Southwind. Yeah. Village and Village Road. Yep. And the cross street would be Crestwood, if I was to say a north-south street, but east-west would be Village Road. It is for those, it's kind of tucked behind Rural King area. So it's directly behind Rural King, which there's a lot of wetland back in there. And to the north of Rural King, there's a massive wetland in there. It borders that wetland.
Okay.
So what it would be doing, I'm just going to kind of read you a synopsis here. It would be constructing 2.5 acres of stormwater wetland surrounded by 7 acres of restored native prairie on an underutilized municipal park. The goals of this project would be to potentially reduce or eliminate localized flooding in and around this neighborhood that happens down there. But also the greater use would be basically to improve water quality from the runoff. This basically what they call, it's called polishing the water. I learned a new term. Polishing the water, which basically takes the water and reduces sediment, pollution, and other things that the water carries. It basically intercepts that. That's the importance of wetlands. It's an interceptor in cleaning the water. So this, what we're asking for total in project grant is $572,944. That is a construction cost. That is to build what I just talked about, 2.5 acres of stormwater wetland and surrounded by 7 acres of restored native prairie. It also includes trails, things of that nature. Those are kind of tertiary things that come along with it. It would be a new asset for this neighborhood. And originally we had said that we would give them or provide $292,722. Since then, we said that we really want to see them partner with other people and provide additional matches. So they have come back to us, and Sanitary District said that they would provide a portion of the match. They're providing half of that, and we're providing the other half to a cost of $146,361.00. So that's what this is asking for. And as of right now, I've heard that we are probably going to get this grant to be able to do this at this point in time, hence why it's before us tonight for kind of final approval, so I don't have to come back to you guys. But I would be providing them a letter that basically commits the $146,361.00. And this would be to Scott Kinsel and Mike Milotovich at the sanitary district to complete the project, to construct the project. If they win the grant, which I think they will. I believe this is the third time. It is a Sustain Our Great Lakes grant.
Is there land purchase for this also?
I don't think there is land purchase for this. I think it's all within the park, but it does include connecting to the existing, expanding the wetlands that exist down there. So there might be some type of have to get on that, get on that property, if you will. But I don't think there's purchase involved in this. I think it's all construction. And then, like I said, just connecting to what's existing. I apologize. They couldn't be here tonight, so they gave me like a short little three-pointer here. So,
Scott, what's the timeline on the work to be done?
I think the reason why we're asking,
the
reason we're asking for this is so that it can hopefully be constructed this summer.
So we would provide the approval so they can go get the grant. The grant would come in and then we would disperse.
Yeah.
As well as the sanitary.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The grant will come in.
Okay.
We would disperse. We were just committing tonight that we will provide $146,361 should they get the grant and when it come in.
Okay.
And then that leverages, like I said, a total of almost $600,000 total.
Sure.
But that is I did specifically ask, that is construction, that is construction. So that doesn't include engineering's already been done, and I believe that design has already been done.
Who did that? Do you know?
I do not know. I think it was
a city.
No. They
Department?
I want to say it's a company called V5 or V3, something like that. It has it's an acronym. I can't think it's an acronym, but it was the same people that designed Carwick Nature Center, the new. If you haven't been to that park, it's a great park for the
it's a
public.
great park, yeah.
It's been redone.
Sanitary district.
The sanitary did
It's a
that,
wonderful park.
and actually we provided a portion of that. We were involved in that as well.
That's actually a great park.
It's a great park. So this would be something very similar to that. And actually the technology that they're using, the green infrastructure technology, is pretty much similar to that.
I do have a question. So with Adams Park, so is the park department, so
they were part of the group that basically met originally to, I guess, instigate the design of it. Shannon participated in the design of it and Carwick Nature Center.
okay. I would just wanted to make sure. So is there, I know we talked about trails and things, so are there gonna still be, is there gonna be, I knew it from baseball back when, but I didn't know if any of that is that all going away?
I don't know the answer to that. I think they're leaving one field.
Okay.
I don't think it takes up all of the fields, but the backfield, I think there's some backfields that don't get played on so much.
Yes.
And I know that, and that's the closest to the wetland.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should have had that information. They just basically sent me the letter. So
Okay.
I can get a design and bring it back to you guys if you like for our next meeting. But
That would be great. I mean, just to have it.
yeah, I can get a
We
design.
can improve it, but it'd be nice to see it though.
Absolutely. It will be, I think it will be a really great asset for the neighborhood and also serve a purpose from the standpoint of helping out flooding, reduction of pollution, et cetera, like that.
So you need, okay.
You need it. I move to approve, is it $146,000, $361 for the development of Adams Park Stormwater Wetland proposal.
And I second it.
Having the first and a second. Go to the commissioner's pleasure. Commissioner Barron.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Deitch. Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye, so the motion passes. So the most important part of the night, the report from our legal counsel.
He says that, you know, like sometimes,
Well,
sometimes.
You've been here, we've been here 3 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm trying to hurry up.
Well, I've got about an hour. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Two things tonight. One is, first and always, setting the record that the executive session was held before this meeting tonight. No items were discussed that were not permitted by the open door law, and no decisions were made. The second thing is more important, or equally important. On Saturday, I sent you a proposal for August Mag. And as this has to do with the Trail Creek cleanup. It is currently an item site. This project, boy, I can't remember when it first began in terms of our interest in it, probably right about the time that I first started. So maybe like in 2015. And at that time, the commission authorized proceeding with an environmental cleanup action against the polluters of the former Begley Cleaners at the site located on the corner of 11th and Michigan. And then all of the pollutants that have gone upstream, downstream, as it goes into Trail Creek or gets to Trail Creek. You may recall, or you may have heard, that we ended up winning a judgment of $1.8 million from that, which included attorney fees, not mine, for our representatives in that litigation, although I did participate in the settlement conference. Since we were awarded the 1.8 million less the attorney fees, we have engaged August Mac to develop that or develop a plan to conform with the IDEM regulations, since it is an IDEM site, to get to the point of where we have this property cleaned up and we can use it for future development. With this, the March 29th proposal or latest change order would govern the activities that are going for the coming year of 2022. What we did the first 2 years of the project was first to clearly identify what the contaminants were within the property, identify the boundaries of the plume, and then be able to identify the stability of the plume. Now we get into, I dare say, the more fun part, but certainly the more productive part, and that is when we actually start doing some of the cleanup as it goes with it. We have been successful in identifying the boundaries. We've been successful in identifying the stability of the plume. But the major thing, I mean, obviously, because it's an IDEM cleanup site, and as I said before, too, we have to have 8 consecutive quarters of monitoring and reports to IDEM that continues to reinforce what I just said, plume stability and the boundaries of the plume. So we will continue to monitor that. The next most important part, I guess, or the productive part as it relates to 2022 is related to task 4, and that is beginning to put in or installing an interceptor trench that will go along on the south side of 8th Street. And what that will do is 2 things. One is, as you may recall, last year, because of flooding, we had a lot of contaminated groundwater bubbling up to the surface. So we had to separate that from anybody being exposed to that. The interceptor will begin to take care of that. The interceptor will go down about 5 feet. And we'll begin actually the process then of taking that groundwater, taking that contaminants, and passing it through to the wastewater department, the sanitary district, yes, and they will then filter that water out and we'll clean it up, and ultimately then gets us to the point of where we can start getting to the actual that actually starts getting the actual cleanup of the plume. The other thing that it does, and I think for our more immediate attention, is when we talk about the development project that's going there on 8th of Michigan Boulevard, this will now serve as a barrier so that no pollutants, no contaminants can get over into that area. There is some already in there. Clearly that's there when you look at the drawings that were there on the change order, but there's also part, particularly on the most western side, which is completely clean, and where development will be first commenced. So the purpose of tonight then is that for basically to set a budget not to exceed $227,200 for August MAC to continue to do the activities that are identified in that. But again, most importantly, this trench. This will now bring to the total of that we've used to clean up $915,200 for this entire project. The most important part to remember, excuse me, of that $915,200 is not a penny of that is taxpayer dollar. It's not coming out of the city. It's not coming out of redevelopment funds. It's not coming out of anything other than the settlement we were awarded in our litigation against Bagley. So that's basically the request to you tonight, is so that it gets us going. And the most important thing is we have to start preparing the first quarter report that'll go to IDEM for 2022.
Could you repeat that dollar amount again?
Sure.
So we can put it into a motion, please.
$227,200.
And that,
That would be the change order basically the budget for 2022 activities, cleanup activities.
2022. And so just to clarify again, which I appreciate your commentary, that those dollars are not taxpayer dollars. They're part of the award that we received from the insurance for this.
They're Bagley dollars.
Bagley dollars. Okay. August MAC.
August MAC.
MAC,
August MAC
yeah.
change order.
Any questions for Attorney Cernak? Hearing none, I'd offer up somebody to, or I'd ask for an offer of a motion. MAC, M-A-C-K.
I'll make a motion for an expenditure of $227,200, not to exceed that amount, for August MAC for Trail Creek cleanup for the 2022 items.
Utilizing Bagley dollars.
Utilizing Bagley dollars.
I second.
All right, thank you. A good clarification. I appreciate it. Thank you. Having a first and a second, Commissioner Barron. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Deitch.
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks.
Aye.
And the chair is aye as well. Thank you very much. We're now at 3 hours and 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Report from the director.
I'll be very brief. With the Trail Creek cleanup, we mentioned sanitary districts involved in that. So they've been great through all this. So I'd like to thank them for helping out with that, just being a good partner with that. Other than that, that's pretty much it as of right now.
Thank you. I would go to public comments this evening. We have one public comment. If you just state your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Phil Ream, 1011 Franklin Street in beautiful downtown Michigan City.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Well, I've been down there since 30 years, 1991. It's been really cool seeing all this change for the better. I want to thank the board for funding the 1011 Franklin Street siding project. It was completed. I also wanted to thank Skylar York, for without his guidance, this project could have turned out horribly for me. I want to thank Aaron Borngraver for directing me into the right direction, despite a couple of procedural construction hiccups in the process. The siding project looks attractive and complete. I want to thank Sue Downs for coming over on several occasions to observe and suggest. Sue has a wealth of knowledge and skills and has helped me immensely in the past, the present, and hopefully in the future. to Christine Vanderborg for enlightening me on code enforcement. The code is online, look it up, learn from it. Again, I thank everyone for their effort, time, and funding. So what does it take to site a wall of 68 feet wide by 28 feet tall in the historic district? First, you need historic permission, lots of labor, and funding in a contractor. In October, I myself pulled off the flapping siding, replacing 1x6 decking boards, pounding in all those nails and wrapping 12 feet rolls of Tyvek to cover the building through the winter. About 60 hours of my labor given on getting my building safe for winter. I've got to say the wrap held up throughout October until February, or about 5 months. A special ordered material siding took 8 weeks for delivery. The 4x30 foot pump jacks took a day to set up and a day to take down. 2 installers at 8 hours per day for 14 days. Carpenters Tony and CJ performed quality craftsmanship. I watched them construct every day. I was active in the project from the beginning to the end. I have received many complaints on the finished project. It looks beautiful. Again, thank you to all involved.
But Phil, thank you for continuing to stay in downtown. So we want to make sure that you're taken care of.
Yeah, I like it.
We didn't know that the side of the building looked like it hadn't seen the light of day in 100 years, 80 years. I don't know.
1880, and the siding was 140 years old. So I like that old building, and I'm going to continue to work on it little by little and get it painted hopefully in the front this year. All that.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
So Phil, I would tell you, thank you. This was a project that I thought was terribly important for us to step up as a redevelopment commission to help you with because of, kind of the progress. And it does look very good. I was concerned for a number of weeks when we appropriated and then nothing was happening, but understanding supply chain and those types of things, but it does look good. Kudos to your contractor because they did the right thing, because I did talk to a number of contractors about that project and they were concerned that if it wasn't done right, it wouldn't look good. And we need that property to look good as the train comes down. I don't want to say that train comes down the track, but I mean, it's true. And it's a focal point when people drive in and they go across 11th Street on the left and they look at left. So, thanks for Aaron and the work that he did and getting some folks in front of you. So, really appreciate it.
My stress level was way up here, guys and gals, but finally, there's the light at the end of the tunnel when the February freeze finally broke and they dropped that material there February 15th. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
In the middle of a store saying they dropped the material.
That's right.
So thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you coming here. It's important for the people that we do impact that they come here and talk to us about this. Most do not make comment publicly. It's important because I think we do hard work. And it's important to do that. And I know that Skylar and Aaron and their team, they do good work and hard work. And so I appreciate the gesture. So
thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner comments. I'll go right down. Commissioner Dennis. No. Tired. Commissioner Deitch.
I'll wait till next month.
All right. Commissioner Barron. Oh, good night. And so my only comment is, again, thank you for everybody making comments this evening. I would say that one of the things I am proud of the fact that we allocated money to the Cat House. That project's I think getting underway. And it's terribly important. I think the next project that is in my mind is Monkey Island. And so I'll fight that fight for another day, or have that fight for another day. The next redevelopment commission meeting is May 9th at 5 o'clock, 2022. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And I'm just going to say so moved. This is the longest one we've had in a while, so everybody have a good night. Thank you.